What's up, guys? Matty here, mixandmastermysong.com. If you watched any of my videos recently, you've noticed this green box over here. What that is the APB16 by McDSP. It's a 16-channel analog processor that has compression, saturation, and limiting in it, basically. And what's really cool about it is all of the knobs are in the computer as a GUI. So they look like plugins, but it's actually analog processing. It's actually analog compression, analog saturation, and it gives you a little bit of a different sound than some plugins. It's something I demoed. I really dug it because of what you can do with it, and so I bought it. So today I'm going to show you the different sounds you can get from it and some examples of how I use it. Let's go. All right, guys, so the APB is basically about 10 different plugins or 10 different processors. I shouldn't say plugins because people get confused that this is some sort of DSP unit. It's not. It's all analog. So it's got 10 different GUIs, you could say, 10 different units. And why I really dig the APB and why I ended up buying one is because there's going to be more stuff to come. You know, like this is just the first 10 plugins or whatnot. And they all already sound unique and different, but I'm sure as, you know, Colin and the guys over there start learning what we're looking for, they can make new stuff and you know, maybe bring some more saturation plugins or some different, summing plugins, whatever it may be. As the time goes on, this thing will, you'll keep getting more processing as time goes on. And I really dig that. I like using analog stuff, but I don't like recalling analog stuff. And that was the other big thing for me and why I sold some of my analog gear in order to get this $7,000 thing was because I can use a bunch of analog processing and it will always recall when I have to pull up remixes and do the thousands of revisions I have to do every year. So between those two things, I felt like it was a really good investment. Now, let me run through some of the plugins, and then I'm going to let you guys hear the differences between these because you can get a lot of different sounds out of this thing, and that's what I really dig about it as well. So one of the ones I use a lot, this is the Chicken Head. This is probably the most aggressive compressor out of the bunch. You can really, you know, get that like really forward sounding vocal with some, and mostly a lot of harmonics and saturation is from this thing, okay? The next one's the Moo Tube. This is a warmer compressor and probably, at least today, my favorite out of the bunch. I like what it does in vocals. I like what it does on bass. I really dig this one. The C673, this one is pretty transparent, but actually adds a nice little sheen to it as well. And I'll play these examples for you, and I gain matched everything too. So you'll be able to really hear the difference between these, okay? The C18 is I like to think of it as a little bit of a cleaner cleaner chicken head. It's a little more aggressive, I feel, than the other two compressors. I don't use it as much as the other three that I first went over, but still pretty useful, good on drums and stuff like that. The Moo X. So this is one of the first of the summing, or the only summing thing they have. Now, what's cool about this, and you can check it out in other videos, I'm not going to go into it, but you can put one of these on every channel, or, you know, 16 channels, because that's what the amount of analog processes I have with this box, and then sum it into the master bus on a master channel and compress it all. So you can actually use this unit as a summing unit, which is really cool. I don't do that. One of the things I'm not crazy about with this is that you can't turn the compressor off. So you kind of got to pick and choose or do some gain staging into this thing. I wish, and hopefully maybe, you know, they'll do it as time goes on, either be able to turn the compressor on and off or maybe do some sort of gain stage into it so you can turn it down going into it, or, you know, something like that. You know, some things that like the hardware adjustment, whatever it is. Anyway, but this thing I use on individual tracks a lot, vocals, and I'll show you how I use it on bass and 808. The saturation knob on this is awesome, and that's another thing I hope that they start doing is more saturation stuff, because this thing can get nasty, and I'll show you what it can do. It's really, really cool. And then this last one we got, there's a couple more plugins. These are ones I'm going to go over today. This last one is the Elmu, which is one of the limiters. There's two different limiters as well. So that's basically it. There's also a multi-band compressor, which I'm not going to get into today, and another limiter, but I figured this was enough just to kind of show off what this thing can do. So I got this little loop of my buddy Cam here doing a vocal. I'll play it just by itself. This is it dry.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run.
It's just a quick line, and I like it because it's fairly dynamic, and you'll be able to hear the compressors work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop this and go down the line, and you'll hear these as they go. So it's going to go chicken head, moo, C73, C18, the moo X, and the L moo. All these are doing about 5 dB of compression. Now, the compressors all work differently. They have different attacks and releases, but I did gain match each one with this really handy gain match plugin that one of my subscribers actually mentioned to me last week. I forgot your name, but shout out to you because this plugin's dope. You can gain match stuff and really understand what things sound like. So let's check it out. I'll try to pull the plugins up as it goes, but it might be too fast. So first you'll hear it dry, and then the chicken head, and then from there on you can watch them here.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot.
All right, so you got the idea. Hopefully you could hear the differences. Let me explain to you what I hear when I work with these and what I've gotten out of these and when I might use other ones. So the first one's the chicken head. It's the most aggressive. It's really great for, aggressive music, rock stuff, things you really want the vocal to punch through. Let's just go A-B with the dry in that one.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run.
So you really hear it. It obviously pulls forward from the compression, but you also get a lot of saturation from that one too. So that one's really cool. I like using this for parallel compression sometimes on vocals and when I need an aggressive vocal. The next one of my favorites, like I said, this one's a bit warmer to me. You get a little more low end, and I'll try to A-B these just by playing them like this.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run.
There's a thickness to this moo tube compressor that I dig, and that's why I use it on bass a lot. The next is the C673A, and this one's cool. It's more transparent, which is good if you're just looking for a nice compressor to tame the vocals down. I'll put this on a vocal bus sometimes, and it just adds a nice sheen. I use this on the mix bus once in a while too, just to get a little extra, like at a dB. So let's hear this comparatively.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying.
So that one's cool. And then the C18, another one that's, I think it's a little more aggressive. It does this have this attack bite, which will leave a little more of the transients through. And that's cool for drums as well. But let's just hear it with this vocal.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run.
Okay. And then the moo X, which is back to the kind of the channel strip, has 2 channels of EQ and saturation and compression, and then a time consonant, which is the attack and release. You can kind of change to get the different settings, but you can't actually individually change them. It's funny because it does sound different than the moo X or the moo compressor, but it has its sound of its own too. And I use this on vocals quite a bit as well. But let's hear the difference.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying.
And then lastly, it's the limiter, which I'll be honest, I haven't gotten to the limiters too much. I've only had it for a month. I've used it on a couple mixes on the mix bus, and I've used it on overall instruments before. I do like this one, and I want to start playing with this more on the bass, interchanging it with the just the regular moo tube compressor, because this has an extra saturation knob on it, which is pretty cool. So let's hear this. I have this cranked on this vocal.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run.
There, that's pushing it more. It seems like my settings might have gotten switched since I started working on this, so maybe we didn't hear this one in all its glory, but now you heard, and even heard it even more pushed in there. So that's that. You know, another thing, and, you know, pick which one you like, but it's cool because you have so many flavors with one box. I mean, that's a lot of different sounds of compression. You can honestly just work with this, although you probably run out of processing power. But, you know, it gives me a lot of different flavors for vocals, especially on each mix, depending on what kind of song it is. Just to show you a little more of what this MuX channel can do, I'm going to play with it for a minute on this vocal. And you can hear, you know, with the EQ and stuff. Now, the EQ is digital, but it goes through the analog stage, which a lot of times is all you're getting from an EQ, an analog EQ, is that conversion. And, you know, going through the transformers and so forth. So, check this out. We'll play with it a bit, and you can hear it. I'll push the saturation and all that.
Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next spot, I'm always on the run. Flying to the next.
So this thing's amazing for, I mean, just listen to the sound difference of that. It's really great using it on different buses, or like if you want to use it as a summing mixer. So that's like a whole nother like way you can use this thing. There's multiple ways to use this. One last example before I make this video way too long is 808s that I use this on quite a bit. So my go-to on this is the Mu Tube. And do a pretty slow attack and a fast recovery, and just hit it about 3 dB, and it just pulls it up and glues it a little bit more and gives it a little more warmth to me. Check it out. I'll play it with and without it. So you can hear it. It's subtle, and with this bass, because you can see it's already pretty dang compressed, it doesn't make that big a difference, but I like what it does with it. Just gives it a little extra shine. And then the other thing I do is I use the MuX as a parallel and just have it cranked, right? Huge saturation, huge compression, and then cut out the highs and some of the low end. And then I'll parallel that in, especially when you got a really subby bass with no mids or no like harmonics in it or anything. This can really help push the bass through. So let me mute this, and then I'll bring it in slowly. You can hear it kind of just fade away. So I hope you were able to get a gist of what the APB can do from the video. It has a lot of different sounds, and the great thing about it is it's not like you bought a $3,000 compressor and that's what you get. This thing's going to keep developing. You'll be able to get more sounds, and that's what's like most exciting about it to me. It's a small box with a bunch of analog processing I can travel around with if I need to. And I'm going to be able to get new stuff that will be fun to play with. That's half the thing for me sometimes, is new stuff to stay creative and want to try things out. And just all the different sounds I can get from this box made it something that I really felt was important to get and help give me an edge in my mixing. Let me know what you guys think. If you need your song mixed or mastered, hit me up at mixandmastermysong.com. You can also check out my courses and presets there too. Talk to you soon.